welcome. My name is Errity Green, and this is Wise Woman Oracle and Tarot. And today I am bringing you a pick a card reading on how to heal. Actually, finally, completely. And the reason I'm sharing it this way is because so often we battle demons or we face something within ourselves that we carry for months, years, a lifetime. And we can work at it and work at it and work at it and still feel like we're stuck, still feel like we're stagnant, still feel like we're not moving or making progress. Of course, that's not often the case actually, but it is how we feel as a human being. And so I wanted to share how to heal, actually, completely, finally, and give you some real practical tools. That's what I've asked Spirit for today. I sure hope we've set the intention for it, clear practical tools so you have some structure to guide your intuitive, natural process. Healing is always happening, but we can support it by engaging actively. So with that, I want to invite you to stick around. Of course, if you find you resonate with this reading, with this video, do like, subscribe, press the bell icon. That way you receive notifications every single time a new reading pops up. If you want to get to know more about me, about my work, you can check out my website, erritygreen.com, where you'll find both information about me as well as coaching programs and personal readings. Last but not least, I do have 2 other YouTube channels. You're welcome to subscribe and join those communities. These are also updated regularly. That is Psychic True Crime and Wise Women Television, both of which are linked below. I also encourage you as a part of this community, if it lands, if it resonates, if it feels right and inspiring, to share this channel, to share this work. We all rely on each other, and I know many of you are so touched by these readings, and I receive outpourings of messages and friend requests and readings from you. And if it ever resonates, if it's ever an inspiration, I encourage you to share this work with someone else to help change and impact their lives as well. So without further delay, I will place a picture up of your 3 card piles to choose from today. You are choosing, as always, from left to right. All right, so card pile 1, I haven't even looked at these yet. How to heal. Let's see what's going on here. Yeah. Woo-wee! I should have known that this would be an emotional reading, but right off the bat, I am feeling this. You've walked for a long time on your path without feeling or being supported, without feeling held, nourished, nurtured, taken care of, properly provided for. And it doesn't mean that you haven't secured these things for yourself, because I very much think you have, because the other card speaks to exhaustion and speaks to feeling battle weary and feeling like you've carried the weight of a cross or burdens or responsibilities for far too long, that you've carried it all and you are, I don't want to say over it, because it's not that kind of bitter, jaded attitude, but you simply can't carry it on anymore. You can't carry it anymore. You can't carry on the way that you have. I do apologize for that, the moving of the camera. You can't carry on the way that you've always had. And there's a message in this too, because some of you might feel like, I've done the work, I'm doing the things, I'm showing up, I'm following through. You're an intentional, conscious person, spiritual. I mean, you're here, you're on this channel, so clearly you're aware. And you're wondering, why hasn't this budged? Why haven't things changed? Why don't I feel any different? And it's because you're still doing it all yourself. And a part of your message, well, if not the entirety, is about learning to be supported, learning to feel supported. And it's interesting too, because it's not just learning to feel supported by life and by other people, although that's of course a huge part of it, if not the most and primary message here. But the other side of the coin is also about securing the support for yourself, even on your own. So not working so hard, choosing not to work so hard, choosing not to take on another duty, another obligation, another commitment, another responsibility, choosing not to bear the load single-handedly, choosing not to say an automatic yes like you might have to many other requests or needs prior to this. It's choosing not to do it the same way that you've always done. It's choosing to support yourself instead. Exploring what it looks like when you have a foundation of support for yourself in your life every day, day in and day out, and what that would look like. So again, you're battle weary. You've just gone on for too long without support, and after so long, there's only so much weight someone can take. There's only so much weight we can bear. There's only so much of a burden we can bear on our own shoulders. So I feel like some of you have likely experienced, not all of you, but this will be true for some of you, have experienced health challenges in the recent years, if not other challenges, emotionally or life crises and things like that. But I'm feeling health challenges too as a sign for you that it's time to slow down. It's time to nurture yourself. It's time to take better care of yourself, no matter what the cost. You know, for some of you, that might require you move in with someone and you don't do it all alone in terms of financially. Some of you might move in with family or grandparents or something like that. This obviously is not going to be the case for all of you. I'm feeling as soon as I say that, some of you are like, I like my independence and my sovereignty and my freedom. And that's all right too. You can give yourself permission to own that. And it's learning how to say no to the things that you can say no to. It's like, of course, you're going to have values and desires for yourself. And so you're not going to give up everything you've worked so hard for, likely up until now. But I can tell you what, right now, you're no longer meant to be burdened by everything anymore all alone. That's not the path. That's not the way. It was, I don't want to say it was never intended to be your path, because as I'm saying it, I'm being caught in my mouth, which I know means that that's not really exactly what wants to be said. It's like, it was meant to happen for a time, but that's no longer the journey. Now is learning how to take that cross up and off your back when it's you that has the choice, or asking others to join you in bearing it. And realize that's part of the human journey and the human experience, is to share in our suffering. And it doesn't mean that we're like commiserating and ruminating and adding fuel to the fire and making our victimhood, you know, whatever that experience is, whatever that means to you, even bigger, and amplifying it even more and becoming even more disempowered, helpless, and powerless, and then just manifesting more of the same. That's not what it's about. It's learning what it's like to actually experience and share and mutual compassion, and walking together and partnering together and being supported and feeling supported, learning what that's like, what that experience is like. Because many of you come from a childhood, an experience, a family of origin, a household, or even relationships that have not been able to support you, provide for you. Likely there was all the situations, or at least most of them, required you to be the caretaker, you to be the nurturer, you to be the provider, you to be the container, you to be and do and carry all of the things. That's no longer how this is meant to go. You are meant to learn what it's like to feel and be supported. This is a part of your healing journey. It's like you're carrying so much weight on the backpack, and in the backpack, you're like, what? In your backpack, you know, figuratively speaking, you're carrying so much weight that after so long you collapse, and there's no getting up until you start taking those bricks off. Like, if you actually imagine yourself carrying around a loaded backpack that life just keeps adding brick after brick after brick, eventually you will collapse. You will find that you cannot get up until one of two things happen, or both. You start removing those bricks, or you ask someone to help you carry them, period. And the people that are going to join you and partner with you are going to be people who are willing to walk with someone. You know, they're willing to carry a brick. If you're with a bunch of people who don't carry bricks in your life, then these aren't your people. You've likely been in dynamics, relationships, relating patterns where you carry all the bricks, but that's not how this is supposed to work for you. It's not your end all be all. It's not your final destiny or destination. You're meant to walk with people who carry bricks alongside you, who support you, who want you to be nurtured, nourished, well provided for, well taken care of, who care about your well-being, who care about your well-being as much as they value their own. I think you've had a lot of people in your corner put that in quotes, but over the course of your life that were primarily concerned about theirs. And so they might have taken from you, asked for things from you, wanted or needed things from you, but it ultimately served them, and you were just sort of a means to an end, a vehicle or a vessel to have their needs met. But you aren't just a vehicle and vessel to meet other people's needs. You're here to be your own person, your own individual, to meet and serve your own needs, to honor your own alignment and authentic truth, self, and destiny. So let's see what else is here for. Yeah. So your healing is all about compassion, having compassion for yourself, but learning this also through other people, partnering with other people who can show you compassion, who can kind of model this for you. If you aren't familiar with it, if this has never been something you've experienced or have rarely experienced, this is about getting to know it within yourself, within your own life experience. And if it requires you to seek out modalities or books or podcasts or whatever in order for you to start learning this frequency, learning this feeling, learning this emotion, learning this energy. Because if it was something that was never provided to you, it might be something that's difficult to contact or embrace within yourself. Of course, it's there. Most of us have experienced compassion at different times in our lives. To be with suffering, right? To understand. Most of us are familiar with this feeling in some capacity in one way or another. And yet, if it's not a familiar feeling or a consistent feeling or experience, it can feel sort of like a random shot in the dark that, it's hard to muster. You don't know how to find it within yourself, resource it within yourself just yet. You can learn it through other people, again, through books, podcasts, whatever modalities or forms of media that might support you. It's getting to know that feeling so that you can begin to use that and use that to nurture you. The healing is in compassion. The healing is in love. The healing is in community and connection and bonding. The healing is in reaching out. It's in asking for someone to help hold you. It's asking for someone to tell you it's going to be okay. It's asking for someone to just sit with you, be with you, to just share what you need to share, say what you need to say. It's asking for someone to walk with you. Sometimes it's as simple as, hey, can you just go on a walk with me? You knock on a friend's door, hey, can I just come in? You might not even know why or what they can offer you or what they can do. It's learning to walk with others and to experience compassion for yourself and learn how to nurture and nourish yourself and especially emotionally support yourself. There's an emotional healing here. I know there's more. There was another thought. I'm just going to take a moment here to see what that was. Yeah, so if you've never experienced compassion or very rarely, and it's been something that's been intermittent for you, it might require you to, again, learn this through other people, through other relationships. Seek out those who are compassionate. Seek out those places you feel like you will find compassion. That's your resonating frequency right now. If it doesn't feel compassionate, it's not for you. If it feels hard, dry, rigid, sterile, mechanical, unfriendly, distant, cold, judgmental, that's not for you. You want someone who can hold you. You want someone who can lovingly accept you. You want someone who can show you warmth. Not more of the same. Not what you're used to. Not, again, distance, coldness, disconnection. It's learning compassion. This is what wants to come through for you from the divine, through the hands of other people and experiences in your life. You see if there's anything else. And the more you can connect with this feeling, and again, sometimes you'll be able to consider someone like a grandmother that you might have experienced this from. It's not going to be the case for all of you, but for some, or even the few experiences or people that you have experienced compassion with, and use that too when you're in quiet or solitude or need some support. Tapping into that, imagining them with you, visualizing them, having a dialogue with them. And sometimes we can do this for ourselves too, as a parent or our own inner child. But it can be so nice to actually feel held by almost what it feels like to be another party, even if it's us imagining it and dialoguing. And in truth, if it's someone who has passed on, and even psychically in everyday experience, we can connect with people in their higher selves. And more than likely, they'll offer that unconditional love. So let's see what else is coming up here. How to heal. Finally, completely, absolutely, or whatever it is that the title is. There's a final message here. I want to get a clarifier though. Yeah. It's breaking free from the bondage that you've been in, which is something about, suffering alone. I have to do it all myself. It's led to a lot of exhaustion. It's led to a lot of weariness. It's led to lack of motivation, maybe even depression, where you feel like, I don't even know if I can go on, and I will. Like, I don't feel any really dense, heavy energy of like, I'm ready to leave this planet or this life. Now, if that's where you are, by all means, please do look up. I know there's a suicide hotline. I know there are so many resources now that are accessible when you're in that place. So please, if that's where you're at, and I don't feel that energy, but in the event this reaches someone ultimately, eventually, where that is something that's relevant, please do seek out the help that you need, because a pick a card reading probably can't reach you where you need to be reached, or even where you would like to be reached. So I encourage you to get that actual physical help, and that's what the whole thing is about, right? Is allowing yourself to be supported and met at that level. Meet yourself at that level. Even if you can put up a great facade, even if you can put on a great face and a persona and all the things, and you can keep up and you can kind of show up and keep up with the Joneses and do all the things, like all the pretense, like, and I'm sure you can do it. It says that you have, but it's saying, will you allow yourself to be met at that level, at the deeper level, that vulnerable level that's inside of all of that kind of strong armored shielding or coating, you know, what's actually inside, allowing yourself to be truly met at that level. So I feel like, to a degree here, this is something that's been a long-standing pattern for you of suffering alone, or suffering, alone and isolation, aloneness. And this, you might look at one of your parents to see how they cope, because I feel like for many of you, or at least some of you, your parents coped, or at least one of them did cope this way, alone. And so that's something that you're actually meant to break. It's a cycle you're meant to liberate yourself from. We aren't meant to do life alone. We aren't meant to journey through life alone. We aren't meant to carry all of our burdens and baggage alone. We're simply not. We might believe that's the case. There's some pride in there if that's the case. But ultimately, truly, it's not true that we are meant to carry even the baggage alone and the burdens alone. That's not it. We are one together. We are one together. This isn't always a message that I get. I sometimes get a message about doing the inner work and supporting ourselves. And I'm really getting the vibe and the message in this reading specifically about being nurtured and supported by others, and remembering that we weren't ever meant to carry all the burdens and do it all ourselves. It was never meant to be that way. We are at one because we come together, right? Everyone wears their own hat, plays their own role, and we come together as one. So card pile 1, how do you heal? Oh, there's the final aspect too, is allowing yourself to, there is something here. So we talked about breaking free from this pattern, but also letting yourself play, letting yourself enjoy life. Again, I feel like once you start removing these bricks and having people around and having people to talk to or have over for dinner, or having people's house to show up at, or bring over a dish for a potluck, or whatever we're talking about here in terms of building connections, bonds, community. It's like, that's, first of all, it's going to bring you joy. It's going to bring you great joy, but it's also going to bring you into this spirit of playfulness, of enjoying life, of experiencing more of what life has to offer. I feel like you are going to be set free. You're going to be moving from this energy to this energy. Take a look. See that energy of allowing yourself to be supported, where this person's carrying all this baggage, all the burdens, all the worry, all on their own. They're wondering why they feel so bad. And like, you might have been through a number of things. Remember, each of those bricks were just one brick. And what I mean by that is, you might be wondering, like, what is it that keeps me down? Why do I feel this way? Yada, 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 right? And you're wondering, is it this brick? Is it that brick? Is it this brick? It's just that you're carrying too many effing bricks. It's just too much on one person. Whatever it was you experienced, the daily things that you still experience today, you're just carrying a weight that's just far too heavy for you anymore. It's time to start releasing those burdens. Now, there might be energetic healing that needs to be done in terms of actually releasing these old emotional baggage and burdens, but I truly believe that starts to happen in relationship, in circles of support, in companionship, in containers with others, in circles. You learn what it's like to be in a true, deep, loving, warm, compassionate connection and or relationship, or relationships with others. So how to heal for card pile 1 really does come down to relationship, to shared compassion, to support, to ensuring your own support and level of self-care, making this a foundation for your life, that you choose support over yes to another duty, obligation, or commitment. We're not saying yes to any more bricks. We're focusing on clearing the bricks and partnering along with others and helping each other carry each other's load. So card pile 1, if this resonates for you, I encourage you to like, subscribe, press the bell icon. That way you receive notifications every single time a new reading pops up. If you want to get to know more about me and my work, personal readings, coaching support, you can check out erritygreen.com/shop. And if it tickles your fancy, you might walk on over or click on over to my other YouTube channels, Psychic True Crime and Wise Women Television, where I upload videos regularly as well. So thank you, card pile 1. It was a true honor, and I'll see you next time. All right, card pile 2, how to heal. Finally, actually, completely, something like that. I don't know what the title exactly will be. And I did ask Spirit to keep these as practical as we can. So card pile 2. Okay, so I feel like there is a message here of part of what is lacking. You know, perhaps it's a flatness, a numbness, a depression. And for some of you, it could be a general dissatisfaction or malaise, or just a lack of fulfillment and meaning. Perhaps you don't feel a lot of purpose or excitement or thrill. You feel like you might just be like a cog in the wheel, in the hamster wheel, the daily grind of like showing up and engaging in the emotions, but not really getting much from what you do. And I feel like there's a message here about fulfilling your purpose, about turning to your passions, about bringing more meaning to your life, about moving toward what is important to you. It's this message of moving toward what does move you, inspire you, nourish you. It's like when we focus on our passions, our genuine interests, our art, our creativity, our voice, sharing our gifts, sharing our abilities, we are actually fueling and nourishing ourselves. So it's something that gives to us, as while we give, we are also given too. Service is actually giving and receiving. It's one and the same. And I even talk about that in terms of romantic relationships or any relationship. In truth, giving and receiving, quote unquote, should be one and the same, right? In theory, they're one and the same. And that's kind of the energy here of when we are of service and when we are doing the things we're passionate about, we're fueled anyway, right? Because I think a lot of you're probably already doing a lot of things or doing a lot of things for other people, or sort of feeling stuck in your role, or mundane, you know, or in the mundane experiences and activities of life of chop wood, carry water, chop wood, carry water, chop wood, carry water. But let's just say you had to chop wood, carry water, but you love to sing. Now you might sing while you chop wood, carry water, or you might dance, or you might paint after you chop wood, carry water, or you might do it slowly today, faster tomorrow, and you might do a cartwheel, or you might do some yoga on the way to your water. You might tie-dye a shirt. You might start watering a plant when you get there. But you're bringing your passions into your experience, into your life, even if the chopping wood and carrying water is there, even if there is this everyday routine and or regular rhythm for your life that still requires you to be present, you know. So oftentimes we can't just walk away from our lives, the homes and families we've built, the structures and routines that we have, or our responsibilities and commitments, and be like, listen, peace out, I'm going on a spiritual journey. Peace out, everybody. It's like, no. I mean, yes, we can do that if we are so called and we choose to, but more often than not, we're just trying to infuse life back into our lives. You know, you're healing because obviously you've been flat for a time, numb, depressed, maybe a sense of longing, disconnection, wondering when your time will come, wondering if it will ever happen for you, wondering why it hasn't happened for you, wondering if there's more to life than this. And so you might start to wonder and even think, oh gosh, was it this thing that messed this up? Or is it this thing in my life right now that's messing this up? Or what do I need to do? And really your whole thing is about creative expression. It's about self-expression. It's about coming into your art, to your craft, to your canvas, making your life experience your great canvas. And again, we might have responsibilities and things that we have to attend to. I mean, that's part of life. And yet, how can you make it colorful? How can you make it yours? How can you make it your own? You're being called to honor the inner whisper of your own intuition, instincts, creative direction, and higher self or soul more often. So perhaps you're given insight, you're given inspiration, you're given the morsel or the breadcrumb, and you don't choose it, you don't know how to choose it, or you make an excuse, you rationalize it. I feel like, again, there's like this drudgery when your life could be infused with more life, and one way or another, whether it's conscious or subconscious or unconscious, you're choosing the old hamster wheel. You know, it's like you have the chance to leave outside your comfort zone, but even though it's generally dissatisfying, you still choose your comfort zone. So it's a matter of really getting to know yourself again. You know, what makes you feel alive? What makes you come alive? What makes you feel creative? What are you passionate about? What moves you? So how to heal. So I feel like I'm seeing what else is coming up here. It's becoming also a leader of your own life and moving your life in the appropriate direction that you seek. So when we're talking about drudgery and mundane and doing the same thing every day under the routines and all of this stuff, chopping wood and carrying water, there is this energy of influence or expectation from others. So there's this energy or influence of, well, I have to do this because they, whoever that is, you know, expects me to, or even you have an ideal that you feel like you have to meet for this other person or other people, or you feel like there are expectations for you or agreements that you've made either explicitly or implicitly, but one way or another is conditioning here that is a factor for you in card pile 2, where it's getting in the way and you're not able to fully see clearly. And it's like, oh, okay, so the problem is, you know, my healing isn't necessarily that something's wrong and or that something needs to be fixed or improved or whatever, all these things that we tell ourselves, the mind tells us. It's more about that you're operating more on conditioning and based on what other people want and your projections of what you think other people want or expect for you, and or subtle or subconscious agreements and commitments that you've made to obligations that might not even light you up, as opposed to living in true, authentic alignment with who you are, with what you want, with your own self-direction. So it feels like your greater healing is around self-direction. And anything else that feels heavy or burdensome is more a reflection of the conditioning that is weighing on you. There's a gravity with that conditioning because it's not yours. It wasn't what you actually agreed to, and if you did agree to it, it was within a space of conditioning, so you didn't really agree to it. It's like when we ask a child to do something they really don't want to do. An adult maybe peer pressures them or pushes them along, and the child agrees to it, but that's just their conditioning agreeing to it. They don't really want to. It's not an authentic yes, but they feel like they have to, so they just say yes. And it feels like you might have lived that your whole life from childhood forward, and or now you are attempting to live up to conditioning in one form or another, whether it's direct or implied, implicit or explicit. You're living by conditioning and more in that than you are by your own self-direction, your own autonomy, your own authenticity, your own alignment. What wants to come through is your own alignment, your own authenticity, your own self-direction. That's going to come from listening to the inner voice, to listening to your instincts, to listening to your feelings, to being honest with yourself, what those feelings are, what they're telling you you need, what they're telling you want. Your dissatisfaction, card pile 2, your general malaise, your numbness, flatness, depression, upset has less to do with like a particular or a number of particular traumas or upsets. You know, you might think like, gosh, that was a really hard thing for me, and that was a hard thing for me. You might be able to pinpoint some serious things that have definitely brought you some more gravity in your life and made things harder. You know, maybe you lost ambition, motivation, hope, and optimism, but in some, more for you, it's like the conglomerate of conditioning that continues to hold you down and limit you and mute and censor your full self-expression, all you are, all you want to become. You haven't stepped into the leadership of your own life just yet, and that's where you're going to find your greater healing. Yeah, it's leaving behind that constriction, that limitation, that contraction. It's like your wings have been cut. You're a butterfly and your wings have been cut off. A butterfly could sit there for days, months, weeks, years and wonder, what have I done and what made me feel this way and what kind of childhood wounding do I need to heal? And they could be down that rabbit hole for a lifetime, if not an eternity. And that's not a bad or wrong place to be or to go, but it's saying for you, you know, if that butterfly would just look up and notice that its wings have been cut, it would realize, oh, so all I have to do is regrow these wings? Oh. And then you're able to fly away from that space. That energy clearly or quickly shifts and you feel free again. You're able to fly again, as opposed to being a butterfly with its wings trimmed, cut, whatever. So let me see here. Yeah, so it's it's coming to terms with your conditioning and what is true for you. And so for some of you, I feel like this might be a difficult or a challenging process, and it's because you truly value what other people think. You truly value, like, you love so well and so much, it's that codependent vibe, but this doesn't feel unhealthy. And it doesn't mean that you don't have unhealthy codependency, but I'm saying that this feels like this genuine want to devote, to give over of yourself, to really satisfy and please people and make people happy and bring yourself and your home, if you share it with others, a happy home. Like you have a genuine, sincere desire to really connect with people, meet people, and I feel like in that you can get caught up in what is true for you and what's not, and where you've been, where you break, and all that stuff. And it's almost like you have to come to terms with what's conditioning and what's not. Be really honest with yourself and be willing to do the work of honoring what isn't true for you. And that's a big pill to swallow for the people who come from a history of meeting needs and meeting approval, the conditions for approval, whatever that is, with whoever that is, in order to feel loved. And so it's like that requires a whole identity shift. It also requires the potential for loss of love, or for someone to not understand them or approve of them. And so it brings up a whole host of implications, but that's what wants to be healed here, is that you love yourself first, foremost, at least primarily, that your love for yourself becomes number one, or at least number two, number three. It's like, you see how I just get more flexible, but that's because I automatically think of mothers as an example, and I do that because I can relate, so I'm biased. So I'm like, I sometimes wonder, that's my own conditioning of, can a mother truly be number one in her own life? Is that even a possible reality, especially for younger children, especially. All of that said, you're meant to come to terms with what really is conditioning and what isn't true for you, and really honor what's true for you. And come into a place of loving yourself just as much as the other people in your life, but also even more so to the extent that it also matters what you want, also matters what you need, also matters how that your butterfly wings are clipped. If it means your wings have to be clipped in order to give or to do for someone else, then it's not right for you. And it doesn't mean you cut everyone off you have to do for, especially like motherhood. Again, we can't just, we don't just get rid of our children. That's not what I'm saying. It's a matter of, where are you naturally of service? What are you, how do you actually come into your fullest expression? How can you serve from that place? So a lot of people go into a space of service, whether it's at home, family, relationship, business, career, workplace. Oh, this is my speaker. I was like, what's that thing? They come from a place of service first and foremost. And so they're doing, and they're engaging in responsibilities, and they're checking off the list, they're getting the chores done, and they're like, okay, where do I fit in self-expression? Where do I fit in me? Where do I fit in my needs and all this stuff, right? And this is actually flipping it on its head, and it's saying, no, first focus on you, your own self-expression, and then see how you build your life around that. So it's like, oh gosh, I really love waking up in the morning this particular way, and I really love playing music and doing it this way, and I love making my evening routine look like this, whatever that authentic expression is. Then you're building your life around that. So do you see the difference? Now, for some of you, or those of you who have built a whole life around self-sacrifice, and that's basically what we're talking about here, then it's going to be difficult to shift that identity, especially like overnight, or to challenge that identity in like a very direct way. So you might begin with an exploration. You might begin with an inquiry, more so of like, what would life be like if I decided to love myself as much as I love other people? What would my life look like if I decided to honor myself as much as I do the other people who I love in my life? What would my life look like if I decided that my needs and wants matter? What would my life look like if I lived every day like it was my fullest self-expression? What would that life look like? And then you might say, what would my life look like when I lived in my fullest expression and I still had to maintain my everyday duties and responsibilities? Then see what shows up, right? So again, your foundation is self-love, a foundation of self-love, self-support, self-care, self-honoring, self-nurturing, self-direction. And then all your duties and responsibilities are met from that foundation, as opposed to the very mundane, dry, flat, numb, mechanical experience of having a foundation of all of your responsibilities, obligations, commitments, worries, all that, and then deciding where you fit in yourself. Do you see the difference? So let's see what else is here. Yeah, I mean, look, hello, talking about a butterfly clipping its wings. We have here what I feel like to be, that's how I'm seeing it, is a butterfly with its wings clipped, being asked to open up, to shine, to be in your full self-expression. Some of you are seeking abundance, like it doesn't have to be material abundance. That might be the case for some of you. I'm more sensing psychological, like well-being abundance, spiritual wealth, spiritual abundance of feeling good, of feeling bright, of feeling open, of feeling engaged, feeling alive, feeling lit up. And that kind of abundance is going to be found when you have your wings back. You're not going to be able to find that level of abundance that you seek when you're in constriction and your wings have been clipped, because you're denying yourself, you're denying your own self-expression in service to somebody else or to something else or whatever it is that you've said you have to do. So how to heal. Is there anything else we want to share here today? Let me see. Some of you, I pulled a clarifier card. This is very much about self-direction again, autonomy, agency, sovereignty, authenticity, honoring your own truth, your own direction, a lot of the things that we've already said, but I did pull a clarifier card to see if anything else wanted to come through, and we do have self-employment. So for some of you, that's going to be literal, and so you've realized that maybe the constrictions and standard employment or 9 to 5 kind of setting do not work for you, and that you feel constricted, held back, or restrained in some way. So this might be an opportunity to consider that. Some of you feel like you're overwhelmed and overburdened with everything that you're already doing with your job. It's not so much the job, it's everything else. You might be a mom with children, or a dad with kids, or with a family, either way, right? So self-employment would still serve you. And then in the final camp, it's like self-employment in and of itself just speaks to freedom. It speaks to sovereignty. It speaks to self-direction. It speaks to, singing your own tune, honoring your own song, finding your own beat of the drum, and pursuing that, living that, expressing that, being in service to that. Card pile 2, your healing is in being service to yourself and your own self-expression and what wants to come through for you. It's like you won't feel that level of satisfaction, fulfillment, and success and abundance that you seek on the inside or even on the outside, but especially on the inside for you. It feels like that's what's most important for you guys. You're not going to find that until you allow yourself to be in service to you, until you allow yourself to grow your own wings. There was one final thing here too. Give me one moment. Yeah, it's feeling like you're also seeking purpose in some way or another, your higher calling, your deeper purpose, your greater contribution, maybe how you're meant to make a change in the world or make a difference, what you're meant to do, how you're meant to share your voice and express yourself or share your gifts. So I feel like for a good majority of you, or at least a greater minority of you, this is something that's relevant, which is also why self-employment is coming up. And it's saying that piece, the contribution, purpose, sort of life, soul purpose, mission piece can't come forward for you until you've made you number one, or at least part of your journey. Like when you start honoring you and your own authenticity and your own alignment and direction, that's when life can live through you for you, right? When you're sort of off that trail and detouring and sort of catering to everybody else, or just other rules, expectations, ideals, your own projections of what you think other people want or need from you, when you're operating there, life can't be lived through you. Does that make sense? You're cutting yourself off from the source, from the connection, that vital life force, that current that wants to move through you. It's like when you're in alignment with your purpose or your self-expression, that's when that other stuff can come through for you, which is that also even more abundance, that abundance that you're seeking, and even ultimately for many of you, a dream, a calling, or a career or purpose path that also brings you greater abundance. Also freedom being something that's important for you, card pile 2. So that is your reading, card pile 2. If this lands for you, resonates for you, I encourage you to like, subscribe, do press the bell icon. Let me know in the comments how this landed for you. And then if you want to get to know more about me and my work, please do check out erritygreen.com, where you'll find information on personal readings as well as coaching support. And then if you would like, you can check out my other YouTube channels, both of which are linked below, both Psychic True Crime and Wise Women Television, and those are updated regularly also. All right, thank you, card pile 2. All right, so card pile 3, how to heal. finally, completely, absolutely, or something like that. I don't know exactly what the title will be. I am going to project my voice a little bit louder, so I hope that's not annoying, and I hope that my AC behind me is not too frustrating for those of you who might hear it. I suggest that you get headphones for this reading if you find that the buzzing of my AC is frustrating. I live in Florida, USA, and it is hot as hell right now. And I try going without AC, but it is the middle of the afternoon, the hottest part of the day. So instead of just letting myself suffer some more, I'm going to ask you all to get headphones if you need it. Thank you for understanding. Okay, so how to heal. So I feel like card pile 3, your healing I'm feeling a couple of different things right off the bat. Number 1, I'm feeling this sense for belonging, for this longing for home, of wanting to be home, wanting to go home, maybe searching for home in a number of ways, not even realizing that you're searching for home in a lot of sort of subconscious way in your everyday life and experience. But I'm also sensing this energy when I first laid it out about, you know, what really lights you up, what really makes you happy, what brings you joy, what makes you come alive and feel alive, what makes you feel like home, where feels like home. So there's energy here of like a star seed. You don't have to resonate with that. It doesn't have to be a literal thing, right? Star seed is an archetype, a symbol, a representation. And it can also be something that's legit. It depends on your belief system. Whichever way, it's still about the energy of coming from elsewhere and then coming to a new place where you feel out of place, you feel like you don't belong, you can't seem to find a place that feels like home, you can't seem to find people who really connect with you, vibe with you, get you, understand you, and or you just feel that rejection complex no matter what, simply because you are different, you do feel different, and you might have grown up a black sheep or an outsider, and so you might carry that story with you even if it isn't true today, but you're being asked to expand your perspective into greater possibilities and live true to who you really are, what you really want, and the greater joys of your life. Now, this doesn't mean that you haven't had singular traumas or a number of crises or experiences that have brought you pain, and then you come here and I'm like, just go do what lights you up. And it's interesting because each of these piles has less focused on the actual hurts themselves and instead focused on how to move on. Now, the irony in that, of course, is while I'm asking how to heal. And so it's interesting to me as a reader, a practitioner, someone who practices within my own life, is very aware and does the work, to see that when we ask about how to heal, Spirit doesn't talk about going in and doing anything with the thing. It doesn't go in there, it doesn't say, hey, go in, you know, do inner child work, dialogue with your trauma, and all these things. I mean, I talk about shadow work, inner child work all over this channel. There are many readings who do touch on those things. So I know those things are valuable and are important, and I use those things in my everyday life. But what's coming through specifically for this reading is much more about, instead of venturing into the past or venturing into the hurt, it's about how we carry on, how we move forward, how we move on. So card pile 3, I think that you know, if there was something, like let's just say you came to this channel, to this reading for something in particular, and you're like, well, this girl's just talking about this, that's not for me, stick around, because, you know, I've gotten that sort of vibe anyway in the last few days when I've been sort of feeling into this energy anyway, which is why I made this reading and I was inspired to do it. And it's really about, you know, how to heal. It's how we move on, how to carry on. It's no longer sitting in that energy, looking at it, messing with it, poking at the wound, prodding at it, pulling the Band-Aid off, taking the scab off. It's actually physically, finally moving on. That's, I feel like, what's going to resonate or be true for at least a good majority of you. It doesn't mean that there won't be more here, because I can already feel there's more here. So we're going to dive in and get more specific for you. But I feel like there's a longing for home, a longing for comfort, for soothing, for soul connection, for yumminess, just to feel held, soothed, and loved. We got a little bit of that in card pile 1. Very different reading though, but in the event that you were deciding between the two, you might check out card pile 1. But I do feel this energy of like a child who just wants to go home to mom and just wants to be held by mom and have her hair sort of touched and caressed by mom and just ball up in this little fetal position and just be held and loved, you know, basically back in utero. But for some of you, that could translate to even being back home on your home planet. It's like life was maybe really hard on you for a number of years or a few years, and you're like, I just want to go home. And I'm not even a good singer, but it just feels relevant, so I thought I would do that. if you guys know Michael Bublé, and I love that song, and I almost tear up, if not tear up, every time I hear the song, because it does have that vibe and frequency of home, doesn't it? That yearning, that longing, that soul connection that we seek, and sometimes, quote unquote, never find. But again, I think there's some things here about a child who's sort of feeling lost, lonely, disconnected, and wants to go home, whether that's your home planet, whether that is your home, your family of origin. For some of you, it was home to a dream, a calling, a career, a family, something that did not work out, that didn't pan out, that didn't work out the way you had hoped, the way you had expected. I feel a lot of shattering of dreams and expectations in this pile, disillusionment for this pile, and disappointment, and grave loss and disappointment. Again, I'm picking up a lot of different energies from this pile, and so take what resonates for you and apply it to your experience, your conditions and circumstances. But I am feeling like each of these are valid. So they'll either all land for you, most of them, and if not, take what lands, leave the rest. But this is about sort of the shattering of illusions, and again, things not working out. Maybe you had a fairy tale in mind, or something would turn out a certain way or be a certain way. Again, this could be a job, a career path. This could be a home, a family, an ideal. You might have had this ideal for yourself that never panned out, that never worked out. So whatever way or form that took for you, in one way or another, it didn't happen, or it hasn't happened, or it was crushed or shattered or in some way. And so now you're just kind of sitting here waiting for home, wanting to go home, to be nurtured, to be cared for, and maybe even told everything is going to be okay. But then it's interesting because it's like the broader perspective, there's an opportunity for more, or for joy again, or to have fun again, or to experience life again, to come alive again. It's like some of you have sort of given into the idea that was it for you. The fun is over with, love no more, pointless to dream, why move forward with a career, nothing works out, it all fell apart, that kind of energy. And it's saying there's still more to come. There's still more to life than that there is more to come, that there is more to discover, explore. There's more life and adventure out there for you to experience, as difficult as you might find it right now, or believe it's not possible, or as much as you want to go home. And it doesn't mean you can't go home or find ways to go home, and we might get more advice and support on that as we move forward. That's really touching on your energy in terms of how you feel. And I do think it's important to meet that need as best we can, especially for our inner children, especially if those needs weren't honored when we were kids. And yet right now I'm getting the energy of realizing that there is still time, and there's still more for you out there. There is the next dream, career, calling, family, home, ideal partner, relationship, connection. Whatever it is that you lost, the dream that you lost, whatever it is that fell apart, that didn't go right, whatever it is that led you to where you are right now, where you feel that way, there is more to come. There is more life to be had. It ain't over until it's over, right? And there's more adventure. There is more to come. So yeah, for a lot of you, right off the bat, I'm getting, there was a loss here, a grave loss. And it's interesting because when I opened, I was like, well, I'm not feeling like anything in particular being pinpointed, because right off the bat, I was getting that energy of wanting to go home and that longing. And I feel like that what precipitated that was a loss. And so for your card pile, we might get a singular focus, or at least like a few things that kind of come together, versus about just moving on. But the energy so far has been a lot about that, and may very well get to that for you, because you are being promised reward. You are being promised the fruits of your labor. You're like, I've invested so much. You might have that energy too. I've invested so much and nothing came of it. What's the point? Just forget it. It's not worth it. And so, but you are being promised rewards. If you keep going, if you keep moving, there are rewards for you. And I feel like it's kind of like this. It's like the energy that I'm getting is this, as sort of an extension of where I'm going with the reading. It's like someone who leaves home to go to LA and be a star, okay? So they're on their way to Los Angeles, the Hollywood center of the world, and for at least Western culture. And so they go to LA, And, one of two things, I mean, there are many things that can happen, but to keep it simple, one of two things can happen. One is they hit it the big time, they hit it off, they become lead actor or actress or whatever, and they become the singer, the performer, the entertainer. They become that star, that shining star that they wanted. And you know what happens in that situation? They are fulfilled, they are successful, they feel abundant, so they don't necessarily go back home, right? Home isn't as much of a concern for them at that point. They can still return home at times, and they likely do for vacation or for holidays and for funerals and for celebrations and family reunions. But at the end of the day, they have built a new life, right? So that's one example of how it can go. But then I'm going to tell you what happened for you and or how this looks for you right now. And it's the other version is where someone goes to Hollywood and really nothing pans out. They go in there, they put in their 3, 5, 7, 10, 12 years of effort. They go to all the auditions and they get little odd jobs here and there, little gigs here and there, but they're trying really hard, they're working really hard, they're not getting by as well as they'd hoped or liked. And now, again, you guys, this is just one example because, and it's not even an actual example, this is just a fictitious example to give you kind of an idea of the energy, because for many of you, I feel relationship, job, career, something that an ideal home, something that you idealized and did not work out. And so, in this example, you go out there, more or less your dreams are crushed and you have to kind of go home empty-handed. But where do you go? You go home. So after a loss, a grave loss, a deep loss, great disillusionment and disappointment, everybody wants to go home. That's how this works. That's how we feel after loss. And so the message here, the reason you feel that longing for home, for family, for connection, for whatever that is, for your home planet, it's because of the loss. You wouldn't have such an intense longing for home if it wasn't for what was lost. So I hope that makes sense, and that longing for home, it's relevant and valuable and meaningful for you because home is home, and I think that's a universal feeling or aspect of our human existence that will always be meaningful for each and every one of us in one form or another. Whether it's the home of soul tribe and spiritual family, whether it's the home of our home planet that we might connect to psychically or energetically or spiritually, whether it's our home of our family of origin or those who really took care of us, whatever. Or even the home that we built with a family maybe that's no longer there for whatever reason. In those situations though where we fail or we come back empty-handed, I actually don't believe in failure, but I'm just saying, where something happens, disrupts our whole lives, we want to go home. And while this is an understandable experience, I guess the energy that I'm feeling into is it's less about having to meet that need necessarily, just honoring and accepting that feeling for what it is. Of course you want to go home. You've been hurt. Your dreams have been shattered. You've experienced a grave loss and disappointment. You've come back after all of that effort, all of that work empty-handed. And yet, and there are ways to find home. You can visit home. I don't want to invalidate that feeling, but it feels like it's more about coming into acceptance of what was lost and acceptance of even that home feeling and just recognizing it for what it is. That's how any and all of us are going to feel after loss. So moving forward, there's this energy of a rebirth, of what wants to come through now or next. I still feel that energy of home, that longing for home, that might remain with you for a time, for forever. And again, you can still acknowledge that, validate that, support that part of you. And yet there is this reminder that there are greater possibilities out there. It's not over until it's over, that there is more life to experience. And so there's this rebirth that's happening for you now, but obviously it's something that you have to participate in, something that you have to engage in, it's something that you have to move toward. Just waiting for home and longing for home really isn't going to get you anywhere necessarily, even in the path of healing. But there is an acknowledgement and recognition of that desire for home, and recognizing probably, or at least perhaps, why it's there. And then really acknowledging the loss that you've been through and recognizing that anyone who would go through a loss like that would feel this way. And that's okay. That's okay. You can feel that. Of course you're going to feel like that. And then it's almost like how it is when you sort of pack up your bags and you move forward. So in that example that we were talking about, someone who traveled to LA, they gave it a shot, it didn't work out, and they're coming back home empty-handed. There's a time of sort of disillusionment, of figuring things out, time of transition. Well, who am I now? What do I want now? What does my life look like from here? What do I really want? I thought that was my dream. I thought that was my calling, my greater destiny. And it's getting to know this new version of you, this new person that maybe isn't identified with that dream, that is the person who has come home empty-handed from that dream. So there might even be something here about a clean slate. You know, once you clear the slate, you know, who are you today? What do you want today? How do you move forward from here? What other life is there to be lived? What more is there to be lived now? And it's not so much as like giving up or resigning on your dream as it is just accepting the fact that it didn't happen. Does that make sense? You're not necessarily having to give up on it or resign from it. You're just acknowledging and being honest and accepting of the fact that it didn't happen or didn't happen yet. So you're just going to move forward and focus on you and doing you and being you and moving into the next phase and chapter and experiences of your life. So getting to know you today, the person who came home empty-handed from LA, you know, whatever your version of that is, now what? That happened, now what? That happened, now what? You know? So I came home empty-handed, now what? You know, what other life is there to be lived? What else is there to be lived? What life does your grief ask you to live? Let me see what else is here. Let me pull a clarifier card. So, you know, it's interesting because I opened with this and then I kind of went around it, and I feel like now we're circling back, coming full circle to where it's just a matter of letting go at this point. And it doesn't mean you have to let go of like, because as soon as I say that, I feel like there's some people who are like in resistance to how they feel. And they're like, oh, it's done, moving on, moving forward. They kind of push against. That's not really what it is. It's more so a change in focus. You know, where are you looking? What are you attending to? What are you orienting toward? It doesn't mean that you start pushing up against or rejecting or denying any part of yourself, any upset, any hurt, any pain, any loss, anything about feeling about home or wanting to go home. Part of your journey then, if you want home so much, is creating, now what does home look like for you? What does that feel like for you? What I think for some of you, your visions have even changed about what you want, and yet you were probably still living true to this old dream. What is it you want now? What is home for you now? It's going back to the drawing board, really getting to know yourself now as a more mature being, even after this loss, and deciding, you know, and realizing, first of all, I'm a different person, and second of all, what the heck do I want now? It's like you have the whole world at your fingertips now. The world is your oyster. It's like, yes, it didn't happen, but there was also this whole, or didn't work out, or didn't pan out, or there's a massive loss, and there's no denying that, and there's no way to take that away or even offer consolation. Not that we can't soothe ourselves and offer consolation and acknowledgement to ourselves, but it's like that chapter is closed. Now you've been given a blank check, card pile 3. It might not feel like that. It might feel like a gutting loss, you know, whatever form your loss took. But this is a blank check for you. How to heal? It's turning in that blank check. It's who are you writing it to? What are you using it for? How are you going to spend it? Who are you going to spend it with? What are you going to do? What are you going to do with this life you've been given to live? What are you going to do with this chapter of your life that you've been given to live? What are you going to do with it? And so part of that, of course, is letting go. And it's not so much, again, of this forceful thing. And now I feel the energy is cleared up a little bit. So those people that might have been feeling some resistance immediately, I feel like that's dissipated some, where it's like, it's more so of just releasing, you know, letting that chapter be closed. And again, it's more of what are you focusing on? What are you looking at? What are you attending to? What are you orienting yourself toward? It's more about that and then you just let whatever has to happen in here happen. You might still carry home with you forever. Okay, oftentimes we won't. If we accept something and we stay focused on what we are moving toward, that thing does dissipate over time. And again, you can still acknowledge that part of you that wants to go home, that feels like it needs to go home. Do what you need, soothe it, take care of it, get comfort, call mama. If you don't have mama or don't want to call mama, call somebody else who can make you feel good and comfy, cozy. Go home if you need to. But at the end of the day, that's just anyone, how they're going to feel after they've encountered grave loss. And now it's about rebuilding your life and focusing on the life left to live and focusing on this blank check that you've been given. See if there's anything else here. I mean, honestly, here's the energy. I'm just going to leave your card pile with this. Let me see if there's anything else. It's also seeing your life for what it is now. I think you might give it a bad rap because you're still being colored by the past. what you've lost or what you had hoped for or whatever is still filtering your lens, like your vision. So you're seeing where you're at now as a disappointment or an upset or a loss. But if you were given beginner's mind or fresh eyes to see, or the energy of the Fool in the tarot, or of the purity of an innocent child, you would be able to enjoy your life as it is now, with no regard or awareness to even what was lost or whatever, anything that had happened. It's like beginner's mind would tell you that your life, this is beautiful, a blank check, a clean slate. Now, I do not want to invalidate people who have had incredible losses, and I can relate to this pile. So I want to make sure and make it super clear that, you know, what was lost, I want to just honor that, and that there is significance there, and that, you know, both things can be true. You know, we're not invalidating the beauty of life now that is here, if you were able to see it or allow yourself to see it. By saying that, I'm not invalidating what you've been through, what you've lost, because some of you have lost some, you know, serious things or experiences, people, and that they're irreplaceable. And there's acknowledgement there too. It is irreplaceable. And that's why you're starting fresh, starting new, blank check, new chapter. So let's take a look at this energy. This is where you start out in the reading, card pile 3, and this is where you end up. See the difference? You've stepped into your life and you have expanded, and you are manifesting, bringing about, living out your dreams, your calling, the next chapter, the rest of the life that's left to be lived. Take a look. It's almost like you've gone home. You've gone home. Maybe not physically, if we're talking home planet, you know, and maybe not even to your family of origin, but to your new home, your soul's home. What was meant to be expressed through you now, the life meant to be lived. So card pile 3, if this resonates for you, I encourage you to like, subscribe, press the bell icon. That way you receive notifications moving forward. If you want to get to know more about me and my work, how I can support you with a personal reading or coaching support, check out erritygreen.com/shop. I do have 2 other YouTube channels, Psychic True Crime and Wise Women Television. If that's the kind of thing that does it for you, I encourage you to join I encourage you to join my community over there. Thank you, card pile 3. Until next time.